Welcome to episode 2 of Sin TV. Sin TV stands for Smart, Intelligent News. So, today's guest, I have to say, he is so handsome that usually I don't have a hard time concentrating doing an interview, but if you look at my face, it says it all. And who I'm talking about is Lasse Larson. He is a model, but he's also the founder and creator of My Vegan Journey, which is a website that combines discussing health as well as spirituality. He also has a non-profit that fits that amazing hot bod that he has, which is called the Sexiest Non-Profit Ever. But most people remember him from VH1's What Chili Wants. It is my pleasure and privilege to have done this interview with Lasse Larson. He is amazingly brilliant and smart, and all jokes aside, he was really wonderful and easy to talk to. So here is my interview with Lasse Larson.
Hello.
Hello.
Second round.
Yes. Oh, once again, I apologize because there was this nasty storm that came through, and what ended up happening was it knocked out the power completely.
Wow.
So, like, when we were talking, and then there was the freeze frame, I was like, oh no, like, not again. So I tried again, and then the power was just out completely. So I appreciate you for rescheduling. Thank you so much.
No problem. How long was the power out for?
The power was out for a good, like, hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, because, like, where I live in the Midwest, it's just, the weather is so bad. It is just so bad. So, once again, I am very grateful I was able to get you, because I know your schedule is, like, crazy busy.
I make concessions.
Yes, you do. Thank you. So, we'll start from the beginning again.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk more about your background and where you're from, and how did you get here? Because you're from Sweden here to America.
Yeah, I'm Danish by descent and born in Sweden, and people usually get that one wrong. And it's very confusing. So it's but pretty much all my family is Danish, but myself, I was born in Sweden and raised in both countries. We moved back and forth a lot.
Wow. So do you speak both languages? Because I'm not too familiar with that part of Europe.
Yeah, and they're pretty similar languages, but yeah, I speak both. We spoke Danish at home, and then when we lived in Sweden, I would then speak Swedish outside, and then with friends and other people. And then when we moved to Denmark, we then still had Swedish friends, so we'd still be speaking Danish at home, but then maintaining the Swedish. And I'd go to Swedish school as well.
For me, all I know is the Ebonics. Like, that's that's about it. I've tried learning Korean, and that's a Category 5 language. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, I heard.
Very, very, very hard. Now, the $1,000,000 question. I mean, you're a very good-looking man. You're very well educated. You're very well put together. Why on earth would you want to go on a reality show like What Chili Wants? Because you know Chili can never make up her mind about a lot of things.
Right. Well, I didn't really know. I didn't know too much about her background in that sense, other than her days in TLC and all that. I just thought she was a nice girl. And I'm not really for reality shows, as we spoke about last time.
Right.
But something just told me, like, I believe in signs, and I call it the universe. It provides signs when there's something that you need to do, or Oh, I think I lost you.
Did you lose me? Am I there? Oh.
Hello?
Yep.
I was like, oh no, another storm.
I know, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. There we go. Due to technical difficulties of Midwestern weather. Once again,
Take number 3.
yes,
King.
number 3. Yeah, round 3.
So,
Yes.
so I was
So
saying I believe in signs,
yes.
and the way I get signs is like I get goosebumps, and I get like this chill going down my spine. And while I was having this conversation, I got these chills, and I was like, all right, I got to listen to this.
Hmm.
And I never really know, like why would a reality show be such a sign? Who knows, right? So I said, okay, put me through the process, because I mean, it wasn't just like, hey, you want to be on the show, you're on the show. It's more like, now we have to interview you, and now you have to go through the actual casting process. And I was like, oh, really? Do I have to?
Why
I
do
said
you
yes.
need
Isn't that enough?
to?
Yeah.
If I saw you, you came in and I'm casting director, I'd be like, all right, that's it. He's in. I don't even care. He's in.
Ah, you're too sweet.
Because I mean, you just looking. I mean, if you brought your credentials to me and I'd be like, we'll even put him on a better show, like, and be able to do that. Now you have 3 different organizations. You have the Sexiest nonprofit ever, and
Mhm.
then of course you have My Vegan Journey, and then you have the
Yep.
Caravan of Change. Can you break
Yep.
all those down? Because I'm sure for the people who are not familiar.
Hmm. My vegan journey is the oldest, so to speak. Everything is
Mhm.
fairly new. I kind of came into all this stuff this beginning of this year, and then a little bit into last year. I was working in a company that I started with some other people called Lux and Eco, which was like an eco-friendly version of Guilt Group or something like that. It was like a private sales of eco-friendly products. As I was leaving that company, I decided that it was time for me to move on to something else. All of a sudden, these ideas started hitting me. I was meditating a lot at that time, and in my meditations, I kept getting these notions. Like I call it like a voice in my head, pretty much. It's just
Mhm.
I get like thoughts, and they kind of like spark in my head, and it was literally saying, okay, well, you need to take these people on a journey. It should be around 90 days, and we'll come up with a name later. And I was just sitting there like, oh, okay, and so I kind of waited a little bit. I was feeling it out, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting how that came. And again, it was like with the sign, with the goosebumps, go for it, right?
Mhm.
So I sat a week later. I sat again in meditation, and then everything came. And I said, okay, it's going to be a bunch of people. Don't know how many just yet. It's going to be called My Vegan Journey. It's 90 days. I'm just going to coach them. I was like, oh, okay. so I so I went on Facebook and I just put it out there. I already had my profile since being a model and being on the Chili Show and stuff. I had a little bit of an outreach in the sense of a fan group. So I just put it on Facebook saying I'm looking for some volunteers. I'm starting a new project. Um, you know, and it's going to be 90 days. I'm working with going, introduction to a vegan lifestyle, and that was really just my trick of getting people on board. Because if I said it was like a spiritual journey to change your life forever, they'd be like, hell no. So I said it's a vegan journey, and that kind of, for me, the veganism is like, it shows you courage, because when you try to do something that's so different from your current lifestyle, it means you have a little bit of courage, and that's all I need. I need that little gateway to just kind of catch you and get you on board. So I called it My Vegan Journey, and I had I think about 20 or 30 signups, and a friend of mine helped me select so that I wasn't biased to it, because I don't like controlling that stuff.
Right.
So she just sat, pointed out the people that she wanted me to coach, and then I said, okay, these are the winners, and I put it out there, and it started. That's pretty much it. And then the first group was 90 days. And during that time, then other things came, because I was following the conversations that I was having on Facebook with different people, and I'm putting all the information out there. And it started coming back to me, people saying that, it sounds great, all the stuff that you're bringing, all the information, but we don't know how to do that. We don't have access to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, all these great grocery stores or farmers markets in our areas. We live pretty much in a food desert. So how do we do it? And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And again, another meditation, sat down, and I literally was cracking up, because the name came, the sexiest nonprofit ever. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Is that the name that I'm going to be using? I love it. I mean, I was laughing the whole day. And during that same time, I met Lizana, who's my partner in the Sexiest nonprofit. And we had a conversation, and she was talking about, she kind of wanted to transition out what she was doing and finding a new project. So when this came to me, at the same time, her name came to me saying, you should call her up, or send her a message that you're doing this, and if she's interested. And I just said, listen, I got this idea, came out of nowhere, sexiest nonprofit ever. It's going to be about eradicating food deserts in America and internationally. And are you in? And she was like, I love it. And then pretty much like one thing led to another. We got a pro bono attorney to help us with setting up all the paperwork and everything. And it's just moving forward from there. We got the T-shirts and the pullovers, which the basic idea is similar to what Toms are doing with shoes, is that when you buy a shoe, they give a shoe. What we're doing instead is that if you buy an apparel from us, we then can contribute that money towards ending food deserts.
Wow.
Now, it's still a fairly new project, so we're still working on it. Everything is kind of in its infancy stages. But the idea is there. The basic concept is there, and we're just working from there. And then building connections and all that stuff. And then the Caravan of Change.
Right.
Around the same time, we were finishing up the 90 days. It was about a month or 2 months after, I think. Maybe time is a little bit off. I was talking to Aisha, who was participating in the very first one. And we became friends afterwards. And we were just talking. And she's kind of like saying, well, I want to do something with this Airstream I have. I'm not quite sure. And we've been watching some documentaries. And I was like, well, what if we just go on the road? Like, we take my vegan journey to a huge audience. Like, just bring it out. But if it becomes more of a movement, it can really reach a lot of people. And, she was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it, And I said, and she was like, it's called, the movement of, revolution. And I was like, what about the Caravan of Change? Again, just blah, And so that's what it became. And then we decided to create a documentary around it because it kind of would help get the awareness to the actual project itself. Because when you start a project, a lot of times nobody knows what you're doing. So we figured if we can get it out in a bit of a public forum and then keep continuing the projects, then we already got the awareness towards it, and then people will be more clued in on what it's all about, rather than just coming out of nowhere and saying, hey, we're the Caravan. We don't know who you are.
Yeah, and you have like such a great sense of humor, because I think it's like everything that comes to mind to you is just something that is just sporadic. You're like, you know what? Let's run with this. Whereas like someone like me, like for my show, it was I sat down and I wrote out this huge outline, and these were my the goals and things that I wanted to accomplish. And I mean, you are like just, it blows my mind. You have this, my vegan journey, and you have, not only the reality TV show thing as well, and I think that's pretty much low on your scale of accomplishments. And then you have being a fashion model and just doing all these things. Like, how do you balance that? And your publicist too, which I enjoyed reading the PR for you, was because the way you were described. Like, yes, he's very handsome, but very smart at the same time. And I'm like, is this possible? Like, can you have all of this and then maintain I can't even maintain my own body. So how do you balance all of these things and then still be sane to wake up in the morning and be like, I can do this?
I just kind of follow the flow. I let the intuition guide me. I always feel like when I try to control things, they just go terribly wrong. And terribly wrong in the sense of there's conflict, things start going in direction that don't really feel natural or like a flow. I always call it the flow, because I feel like when you're in the flow, things just kind of work. There's not too much emotions in it. There's not thinking. It's just kind of like, all right, well, this sounds great. Let's go that way. That sounds great. Let's go that way. And you kind of like, you just feel it out a little bit, and like a thought comes, like an idea. Aisha and I are talking about the Caravan of Change, and we're coming up with different ways of helping to promote it. And we just kind of like, well, let's chew on this idea for a little bit, see what we feel like. If it feels good, let's go with it.
Right.
You have nothing to lose.
Right.
And one of my teachers said, start where you are.
Right.
You can't start anywhere else. So you just start. And then you just let everything develop from there. So even if you feel like you have a shoddy product in the beginning because you haven't really put too much thought in it, which, I mean, the Sexiest nonprofit ever is brand new. It's still in development. It's still trying to find its way. But it's the fact that it's out there already and it's being started to be talked about and it's getting some traction and it's getting some interest, that will help it generate and develop.
Right. And the
I
platform
believe like everything's like a plant, you know?
right.
So the Sexiest nonprofit ever is like, it's a seed right now and it's starting to come through the soil. It's slowly like breaking its way through, but it's going to develop into a whole
Right.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, you lost me for a second. I think it's something with the weather here. I need to move to California. I think that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Because it's just really crazy. And with you started off with, like you mentioned, the platform of my vegan journey, and veganism is something that is still new to me. I've heard of like fruitarianism, and I know all the different types of vegetarianism that's out there. But let's just say, like, for me, I'm completely this empty shell, and I'm not too familiar with this, and I want to get into it. But often there are misconceptions. So when you tell someone that you do veganism, like, what are some of the key or top misconceptions that you have? Or have
the big myths?
Yeah, the big myths, correct.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is protein. When I say I'm vegan, most often it's the question, how do you get your protein? And it's because most myths are perpetuated by industry. It's commonly known that the food pyramid, which is the standard American diet, sad diet, is it's perpetuated by industry. So it's created by industry and it has industry interest. It's a financial interest rather than a health interest. So when they say protein, it's because they know that animal protein and dairy protein, where it's the richest source of protein, and that's why they're selling that point. But really, you don't need all that much protein. Plants contain the adequate amount. The thing is, we've forgotten that we're animals. We've forgotten that we are of nature. And when you forget you're of nature, you start doing everything unnatural. Our thinking is unnatural. Our relating is unnatural. Our eating is unnatural. Even our spirituality is unnatural, because our thinking has gone off the tracks, So when we're just talking about diet right now. So for example, if we look at animals, they eat perfectly according to their constitution. They don't eat too much, they don't eat too little. They just eat what they need. And they don't go into like dietary plans and strategy. They don't need health coaches. They don't need anything. They just eat. This is where we've gone wrong as a human species. We start to use the ego rather than our intuition to eat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when we look at diet, we've forgotten that our body is actually telling us exactly what we need to eat if we have learned to listen to it. And really, the only thing we should be concerned about is levels of energy, where you get the most energy. Plants are really the best energy conductors there is. So if you want to have energy in yourself coming from food, plants are the best way to go. The denser the food and the deader, unfortunately, the food is, the less energy it conducts. So I eat according to life force energy. Now, raw food is even better than veganism because it's even more energy. But that's also, what most people consider extreme. But really, it's just a question of how much energy do you want to take in and how much do you want to support your body. The more you support your body, the more it supports you. And you can then use that energy to, accomplish things in your work, in your hobbies, in your love life, whatever it is, Because, I mean, it's commonly known now that vegans have a different kind of sexuality.
Yes, you guys, you are the product result, yes. Because the way you present yourself it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
Yep. So really it's about learning to come back to nature again and understanding that eating should be a second nature habit. It shouldn't be something you have to put too much thought into. That's when we go into neurosis. That's when we go into obsession and we start thinking about external rather than internal health.
Wow,
This is kind of what I touch on when I coach. I don't talk so
right.
much about diet plans. I don't believe in planning at all. I believe in a natural attraction of what you need.
That is, to me, that's the best way I've heard that process, because often when I've read on veganism, and it usually it's like veganism and then PETA kind of go hand in hand, and it's
Right,
very
right.
like it's very extremeness, and it's not comforting. Like, it made me like hate vegetables for a while, because I'm just like, man, these PETA people are just, they're really
Poor
crazy.
vegetables.
Yeah, like
The vegetables
vegetables.
got related to PETA.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I think PETA is doing a great job at what they're doing. They're definitely
Right,
bringing out awareness. I feel like, from my point of view, it's more extreme than I would like,
right,
because if we didn't eat animals, we wouldn't have to rescue animals. That would they would take each other away. I
right.
don't believe in force. I don't believe in going out there and telling the world that they're bad and that what they're doing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
For me, evil only exists in ignorance. You can only have evil when you're ignoring the fact that you're participating. It's your responsibility that it's there.
Right.
That's really just somebody taking advantage of ignorance.
You
So
are
the only thing you
correct.
can do is become conscious. When you start making conscious choices, you're not choosing their product anymore. For example, when we're talking about the meat industry, or Monsanto and all these different things,
Right.
when you become conscious towards what you're putting to yourself, whether it's your mind and your body or with the spirit and exercise and things like that, you're not going to buy their products. And then by that standard, by that thinking, you dissolve the evil.
Right. And that's very true, because that's how I often think about how to present things. Is you kind of have to look at how that ignorance is being built, because everybody's just about like facts, 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 and history,
Yeah,
history, history, and it's kind of like,
exactly.
well, history develops over time, and now let's look at what's currently happening, and what can we do to come to a some sort of understanding, not a resolution per se, because there's always going to be someone that's going to be like, I object, but I think that is
Maybe not.
maybe not. Maybe, see, for me, I've been lucky. I haven't had that part yet, but I know that there are some people that they just can never agree to disagree. And what advice would you give to someone who wants to do what you're doing, and to be successful at it? Because so many people have tried doing things revolving around wellness and veganism, and
Mm.
it's fallen short. So what advice would you give in regards to that?
When you're saying fallen short, how do you mean?
Like, for example, okay, let's say they start a campaign like yours,
Hmm.
and they get people on board, and what often happens is there's a higher percentage of fallout, because, like, the way, remember in the beginning of the interview, you had said that like, I want to take you on this like spiritual like journey,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and those kind of like catchphrases often cause people to kind of push away.
Right.
So in regards to my question, is like, what are some things that you have been doing, and advice that you would give to someone who would want to pursue this, whether it be veganism, or whether it be kind of trying to tie in, I would say, a lifestyle and making change, because it's a very
Right.
difficult balance to be able to do.
True, true. I mean, I've studied this stuff for many years now. Not in an orthodox sense, but more like an orthodox apprenticeship, actually, I would call it. No paper signed, no certificates, anything like that, but just kind of transmission from teacher to student. And what I learned is that you have to really, really follow your heart and your intuition, because it knows better. It's easy to get stuck in the trap of doing it for self. There's a self reason because we're not quite healed, or we're not quite there yet, and then we start telling other people that they need to heal, and that kind of always brings teaching in the sense of conflict. As long as the message is not fully pure, there's always going to get like a lesson in life, You're not
Right.
quite there yet, you get a lesson in life. I mean, that's what life is about. It's about learning the process of manifesting what you want, pretty much. It's a very basic principle of life, It really isn't too much to life other than that. It's like when you're a kid, you run out and you want to do something and you do it. Then we become adults and all of a sudden we realize, oh, it's not quite like that. But it's not true. It actually is like that. The freer you are in yourself between when you have a thought and it manifests, the faster it goes. Right. Whatever thought that is. For me, my thinking right now is, how can I help more people? Just because I got the help that I needed, a lot of it as well. And that's kind of what brought on my vegan journey and all these things. It's like I thrive on being part of the greater good. When I have these conversations in my vegan journey, I'm high. I get natural high. I get completely like, I skyrocket. So I really thrive on that. That gives me energy. That gives me juice. I don't feel like I'm working. I don't feel like I'm doing anything other than just playing. Like when you and I are having a conversation right now.
Right.
It's just fun. It's just a lot of fun. And then seeing a person going from feeling kind of sad and heavy or in bad health, and then seeing that smile coming on their face, and when they realize what's really going on, that's amazing. So I would say my biggest advice to people that want to go out there and coach and stuff is, don't make it about yourself, but reap the rewards that come with it. It's like if I went out there and started growing food, for example, right? I planted some seeds. If I make it for myself, I would force those seeds to grow faster because I want the food to come like this, right?
Right.
But you can't force a plant to grow. You have to support it and nurture it and keep it and water it just right. Just, everything has to be in good measurement, and it has to get sun and rain and all these different things. So you got to really support it and maintain it. And then it grows. And it becomes a beautiful plant. But if we put our ego into it, which is the self, then we try to rush things, and we're impatient, and we want to do it for us, and we forget what the purpose is of that plant.
That is so true. That is very, very true. And I thank you so much for explaining that, and of course, be on the show. And how can people get in touch with you, and are there any upcoming things that you would like for people to be aware about?
Yeah, I mean, the Caravan of Change is the Kickstarter is going on right now. So I'm going to send you the link so that people can go on the Kickstarter and check that out. And then my own website is lasselarson.me. And my vegan journey is my.veganjourney.co. And I will send you all these links so you can have them as well.
I'll have those favorited, especially the .me.
And then there's my Facebook, my Twitter. I mean, I can be reached so many places, and I take questions freely. On my vegan journey, you can actually send me a question, and I'll respond with a video and a personal email.
I'll have to do that, because like for me, I'm trying to kind of figure out how to change my my eating habits. It's like I got the fitness part down. Mm-hmm. But it's you have to, like you said, you have to combine the fitness with the proper eating in order to balance out and make that whole wellness to occur. So I definitely, I'll be keeping in touch with you, and you'll be like, Quita, stop emailing me. I think I have another question.
I think the biggest thing to do when you want to learn something about diet is start looking into all the myths and all the. If you have a belief or a thought in your head, you're saying, okay, well, I need to have this or this or this or whatever, like the protein, for example. Question that. That's one of the things I learned from my teachers. Like, question everything, because most of the stuff that we're taught is taught from an external principle, which means it's taught by society but not by spirit.
Right.
And it has a falsity to it, because exterior is not the place to look. Exterior is a reflection of the interior. So unless you have the purity in yourself, the freedom, the channel to be completely clear between spirit and yourself, you always kind of look outside for information or for knowledge. But that's not where it's supposed to come from.
Right, exactly. Lasse, thank you so much for being on the show today, and I really appreciate it. Regardless of the crazy technical difficulties we had today, I would like to blame the Midwest for that. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Enjoy your week.
Yes, I will. Enjoy the rest of the holiday.
Thank you.
Yes. Take care.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Wasn't he wonderful? I would like to thank Lasse once again for being on the show. For more information about him and the wonderful things that he does, you can check out his website at lasselarson.me. And he also has a Twitter. Please follow him at Lasse_Larson. I will have the links below for the Sexiest nonprofit ever, as well as My Vegan Journey. And he also has what is called the Caravan for Change, and I will have that link below as well. So please make sure you check it out. Thank you so much for watching Sin TV, and I can't believe it is already episode 2. I appreciate all of the comments as well as my newest followers on Twitter. I thank you so much. If you would like to be a guest on the show, I don't care what profession that you do, I am always seeking and learning and growing, and that is what Sin TV is all about, is to bring awareness to people who are not only in the entertainment industry, but people who bring forth intellectualism in all different types of professions. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Sin TV Now, and if you want to be on the show, please contact me at this email, which is sintvnow@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to get smart and stay informed.